In fact, they will be even worse because Democrats, they want no liberties for you at all, hardly. They want everything government controlled. I remember when I ran for governor, Hubert Skip Humphrey, no matter what subject came up during the race, he had a government program waiting to take care of it. And it was like I looked at him at one point and said, Skip, who pays for all this? You know, government laws and more laws. What people need to understand, Alex, is that every time a legislature passes a law, there's a money tag with that. It costs money to implement that law.
Well, what?
And as a chief executive of a state or country or whatever, you have to do it. You can't arbitrarily to yourself go, well, this is a stupid damn law, I won't implement it. You're not given that ability. And he said to me one day, he said, you know, all politicians are crooks. And I said, Dad, come on, how can you say that? That's a blanket statement like that. And he said, easy. He said, because they spend $1 million for a job that pays $100,000 a year.
Absolutely. The evidence is right there. That's what one of my grandpas would always say.
And so I make it a point that when I run for office, I do not spend more money than what I will make. Now, as a U.S. Senator, I will make close to $950,000 through the course of that 6-year thing. So that means I could probably spend about $750,000 to get the job.
Now,
but I will not spend over that. And, you know, if I do it, I'll decide in July, because I believe these campaigns are far too long and far too expensive.
Well, we need you also during this national election cycle to be injecting sanity, and that will up your profile if you run for Senate. I think it's a no-brainer. I'm begging you to do it. We need you to do this, Governor.
The problem is, though, Alex, is then I have to do it.
Then you can't go surfing.
That's right. Then I can't go down the Baja and watch sunsets down there and take my surfboard out and fall down as I try to learn how to do it.
Absolute heaven down there. I certainly envy you down there.
No one watching over me.
No big brother telling you.
No big brothers down there. Do you know what I also do with all my new vehicles? I disconnect that OnStar.
Which tracks you, yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. That people think they can track you anywhere you go if you got that hooked up on your vehicle.
Governor, I want to run through a bunch of questions quickly now because we're almost out of time.
Sure.
Government drug dealing. They had a CIA aircraft right at 4 tons of pure cocaine, showing it came from the source. One of the CIA rendition flights, same plane, CIA owned, crashed in Yucatan Peninsula. Nothing on our press, all over the foreign press, with the CIA pilot, killed the people on board, filled with pure cocaine. Should we decriminalize drugs A and B? The experts I've had on here believe that over 85% of all narcotics is brought in and licensed by the government.
Well, I think absolutely we should decriminalize it because of the fact that when I was in Mexico, the Virginia Tech thing happened. And the headlines in Mexico said USA 33, Mexico 20. Because that day there were 20 people killed in the war on drugs on the border. Only difference is theirs happens every day.
And now it's spread all the way up into Indiana, up into Dallas. Quote, military, our government trained, are now, quote, helping the Mexican drug cartels.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, yeah, that was finally in the Houston Chronicle. Just a side issue, I know he's your buddy, and I know you've been in some films with him, like Running Man and Predator, and I know you're a loyal person, but Schwarzenegger, you talk about big government, gun control, on a lot of these issues. What do you think of the job Schwarzenegger's done as governor? Well,
remember this, Arnold is not a true Republican. Arnold is very liberal on the social issues, much like I am. I don't care about gay marriage. It's none of my business, things of that nature. And remember, Arnold's also a populist. He tried the hardline Republican position in California, and he got hammered. His popularity went down the toilet, so he made a turn. And now he's doing things that apparently the Californians are more popular with.
But what about gun control?
Arnold is not a dummy. You know, Arnold knows where his bread gets buttered depending on what he's doing.
Yeah, but you could do that too. You could go with how the bread's buttered and probably be president. I mean, there is a difference here. You're not for gun control. You're not for drug criminalization. Arnold is.
Well, I don't think Arnold's for drug criminalization, is he? Because he's not bothering the pot shops out there for the medical stuff.
He lets the feds come in and go after him. He hasn't been trying to repeal these drug laws.
But the point is he can't stop the feds anyway. Federal jurisdiction takes priority over state. Otherwise, if I was governor, I could stop our National Guard people from going to Iraq.
When's the last time you talked to Arnold? Has he read your book?
I have never talked to him since he took office.
Well, I know that he said that he modeled a lot of his campaign off the fact that he saw that you could win.
That may be true, but I haven't spoken to him at all. I stopped by one time when I was giving a speech in Sacramento, and he had already gone home, back to L.A., and so he wasn't in that day. I just left a note for him and gave him my best regards, and I haven't talked or heard from him since.
Jesse, talking about the police state, all over the country now, they don't just do breathalyzers. They're taking blood at checkpoints from Illinois to Texas, from Arizona to New York State. They're now having, quote, federalization drills where they get tens of thousands of police in 3-4 state areas to randomly search pedestrians now, not just cars, set up checkpoints. What's your take on that?
Well, if it's true, we're in tough shape. The only thing I can comment on is what goes on in my life, and I am concerned because when I crossed the border this year, inside the border was a second immigration checkpoint. Well, according to the Constitution of the United States, once I show at the border that I'm a U.S. citizen, I should not be required or be asked any type of identification as I travel throughout the continental United States.
And now they're building those deeper and deeper, over 100 miles in, and they're going after citizens.
Oh yeah, everybody. Like the car in front of me, I saw the people showing passports, and they were from California. Well, for some reason, they waved me through because I turned to my wife and I go, I'm going to see if the Constitution protects me. I will not show these people anything, even though they're immigration.
What happened?
I'm a U.S. citizen. If it's a state trooper, that's different. You're on a highway, then you show your driver's license. But as a U.S. citizen, I am not required to show anything.
What happened?
As I travel throughout the country. The Constitution guarantees me that.
In closing, with the 3 or 4 minutes we've got left, other points, other key issues that you want to impart, anything else on 9/11, anything else you want to talk about with the future of this republic?
Well, the main thing I want to talk about is the fact that we better wake up and we better pay attention and not to believe everything that the status quo tells you, because they're not necessarily talking the truth, and I'm finding that out more and more and more. And I personally have no trust in the government anymore because they've been so deceitful to me on everything, it seems, and that we've got to change. And I think the other thing I'd like to bring out is this. Having lived outside of the United States now for 3 years in a row for half the year, my belief is that you're not a world power by carrying a club and beating everyone up. And our status throughout the world has dropped dramatically now. The most popular T-shirt you see in Mexico amongst young people now is a photo of George Bush, and it says weapon of mass destruction. And I really don't think it should be part of as the United States, and it's time for us to change direction. So when Obama says about talking to our enemies, I see nothing wrong with that, because it should be the last option. War should never be the first option, is what we've made it today.
Well, you're right, Governor. Our name has been destroyed, and these so-called conservatives that still support the war, A, they're against the will of the people. Only 30% support the war still. And B, they have bankrupted us. The dollar's being devalued. Inflation is in double digits. The Federal Reserve's denying it, but oil just went to $1.30 a barrel today. $1.30 a barrel.
Did I tell you my take on oil?
No, sir.
I think this is what's happening on oil. I think they're driving the price up to battle the environmentalists. I think they want to get drilling in Alaska. They want to get offshore drilling. This is a ploy by the oil companies, in my opinion, to drive the price up to where the American people will say it's $5 a gallon. I don't care about the environment. Drill. I've got to have my gas.
Well, that's a part of it, I think, but largely the dollar has been devalued. Oil is dollar denominated, and so if the dollar's been devalued by more than half, oil's going to double.
Oh, yeah, on that end, too. Very good point. Very good point.
I noticed that in Minnesota, because we had some of our local guys that work at the network came out and shot some video of you talking, and you wouldn't address the press, but you would address them. Why were you not talking to the mainstream press?
Well, I talk to the mainstream press, except not the Minnesota mainstream press. I've made it my personal vendetta that I never speak to them again, because when I was in office, they attacked my children. And so the only way I can fight back is to not talk to them, not make them money. And so I speak to the open press in Boston, I speak to them in L.A., anywhere else, but I will not speak to the Minnesota media because it's my personal vendetta against them. And, you know, us Navy SEALs, we don't get even. That's our saying. And so my only way of getting even with them is to not speak to them. That's why I did speak to your people, but purposely I do not speak to them, and it is because they attack my kids. My son refuses to live in Minnesota now.
Governor Ventura, I want to say one more word to you during the break and then let you go. I really appreciate you spending time with us. The book is on the bestseller list. We need to make it even bigger. It is Don't Start the Revolution Without Me, Governor Jesse Ventura. We'll be right back.